All right, if you thought that was weird with Princess Diana, now it gets even weirder because at the very end of that, I was like, she said that she has peace. And then I had to sneeze. The Queen came in. So now I've got Princess Diana and Queen Elizabeth in my house. And I'm going to finish up that conversation right now with the two of them and find out why Queen Elizabeth is. She just pulled up a chair that doesn't exist. She pulled up like a really fancy, high-backed chair with arms. It's the kind of chair that has like cloth on the arms and then a little bit of wood at the end, if you've ever seen those. She's sitting in one of those staring at me right now. And Di is like sort of sitting on the couch where I've got some blankets, so it sort of looks uncomfortable for her, but she seems to be totally fine. And so I keep looking over here to this side over here because there's a chair there and that's where she's been seated. And then Queen Elizabeth just sat her ass down right in front of me. She just said, that's a completely inappropriate way to address a queen. So I'm going to go with you, with me, figure out why Queen Elizabeth just showed up with Princess Diana. And I had a feeling this was going to happen. I allowed for it in the space. So let's see what happens. Ladies, I welcome you here. If you need tea, Di, you already have your tea and your cookies. It's only been about 15-20 minutes, so you've got that. And Queen Elizabeth, do you need tea and cookies? Oh, and a corgi. You apparently have a corgi with you as well. Okay, here we go. Ladies, Queen Elizabeth, you're the one who showed up on this, and I would like to ask you, why are you here, love? Why are you here? Well, she said, I'm responsible for her death. And I want you to know I take responsibility, but I also take a bit of a grudge to that. How dare she? But at the same point, she's not wrong. So I think we should address that. Okay, sure. You hear me and you see us, and you are somebody who can help us heal our rift and do better in other lifetimes together and do better with each other in the lifetime that we had. And Princess Di just said, I wasn't the one who was doing poorly. And it's true. She wasn't doing poorly. She was in a terrible situation. I can feel that situation she was in. I could feel how hard it was on her. And she's super sensitive. And she often felt wrong-footed. And she felt unaccepted and shunned. God, they shunned you a lot. They would let her come out occasionally, but they would hide it in a way. Like, oh, they would hide her. She wasn't a good enough entity to be a part of the royal family. And then Di just said, well, I was apparently better than Camilla. And in a way, you weren't. She did, and I can feel her trying. Like, I could feel her trying over and over and over to be good enough and to be accepted and to be wanted and to be loved and to be appreciated. And she did things over and over to become a member of that family. And you just didn't accept her. Why couldn't you? She just said, I couldn't. Well, I wish you guys could hear what I could hear. Why couldn't you? So what the Queen just showed me is basically the equivalent of like Diana would metaphorically open the windows and let air in. If somebody was awkward, would say, hey, are you feeling awkward about this? And then everybody in the room would get awkward because she just said the thing. And she would want to address issues, and they would not want to address issues. And behind closed doors, never in front of anybody, Diana would question Queen Elizabeth's decisions and would say, I don't know that I agree with this. And then that really put her behind Queen Elizabeth, because Queen Elizabeth was like, Queen, she doesn't have to explain, I don't have to explain to her, right? You probably felt like you didn't have to explain to anybody. But here's the deal. The truth of what you hid is coming out with your brother. The world sees it now. She sniffed at that. And she says, I did what I had to do to keep our reputation. So instead of addressing it and kicking him out back then, which wasn't the done thing, she just said, no, I was upholding standards. And that she pointed to Diana and said, you had no idea what a standard was. You did not care about our ways. You did not care about what was important to us. To which Diana says, no, I did care about your ways. And I did care about your standards till I knew my caring wasn't ever going to be good enough. That my putting the family first was never going to be good enough. And I was never going to be accepted. And so I stopped trying. I just stopped trying. And I stopped playing your game. And I divorced your son and I got myself free. And you got yourself killed. So you did it, huh? You sent the paparazzi after her so she couldn't date the man that she was dating. You didn't like him. He wasn't good enough to be a part of the royalness. No, he was sleazy. Who were you to judge who she dated? She's still royalty. Her sons would be king. Only one of those sons gets to be king. She just called me impotent. Not impotent. Is that the word? What's the word? You know, when you're being smart-mouthed. I know what she means, but I can't think of the word. I heard it in my head, but it's not coming out of my mouth the correct way. Because impotent is not the word. Impotent means to not being able, not being strong, like not being potent, not being virile, right? Impudent. There it is. I'm being impudent. Disrespectful. And she just called me annoying. And then Princess Di said, that's fine. She thought I was annoying all the time. Well, yeah, you're fun-loving and like lively and have a heart and you care about things. And you had to be kept in the secret about what was happening, or else you probably would have gone out and spilled the beans. And she said, I probably would have. And the queen just said that was none of her business. She had one job. Apparently, Diana, you had one job. One job. Raise the boys. That was her one job. And then she left them. She failed them and she left them. And then you killed her. I did what I had to do. What do you two need? Queen Elizabeth, you showed up for a reason. What's the reason? Okay, she said like the energies need to be healed. Di, are you up for that? Are you up for forgiving her and letting her go and not holding her responsible? And Diana said, I can forgive her and let her go, but she has to let me go. She said, that woman has been holding a grudge about me for 30 years, 40 years. Ever since the wedding dress. Oh, I could see that actually. What do you want to say to her? And I heard Diana say, you made my life miserable and you made it impossible to be in your house. And you actually made it impossible to be in my marriage. Your words of meanness and my husband's lack of backbone made it impossible for me to be successful. And Queen Elizabeth says, I see why you see that, and I see why you think that. I will not disagree with you. But I will also say I had England in my sights, and I was thinking about how best to run the country. I was thinking about policies and positions and how we looked as royals, and you stole the people's hearts. I couldn't forgive you for that then. Can you forgive her now for that? If I must. It made my life harder. And Di is saying, I didn't mean to make your life harder. I didn't mean to change it. I didn't mean to create, I guess, winds of change in the sense of pulling people toward me. I was just doing things to help them, and I was doing things to help my boys, and I was doing things to raise awareness for causes I really believed in. I wasn't thinking about the royalness of it. I was thinking about all humanity. Diana, I would say I see you as somebody who has love and compassion for everyone. And Queen Elizabeth, you were more like the old school ruler where you got to be a queen where a king would sit. And so instead of being heart-led and heart-focused, you were more, I would say, masculine in your rulership. My way, the highway. This isn't a conversation. This is my decisions. It goes the way I want it to go. And she said, very much so. That is how my father did it, and that is how I did it. And she also said, I came into power at a very young age when everybody around me wanted to question everything I did. And so I had to step up and speak boldly every time, or else somebody would question what I was doing and tell me I didn't have the experience. And so I just stopped listening and did what I had to do. And I only listened to those that I actually ask their opinion of. I guess that kind of makes sense. Di, does that make sense to you? And she said, I wish she had explained it to me when I was alive. I could see that. Di, do you forgive her? I got a yes, I forgive her. I forgave her a long time ago. For myself, I forgave her, and for my boys, I forgave her. And Elizabeth, do you forgive Di for leading with her heart and for being gentle and for being compassionate and kind and pulling the British people behind her, even the American people behind her, right? The world kind of rallied behind her and you felt left out and behind. She just sniffed and said, don't remind me. Like, okay. But can you forgive Di for that? Can you forgive Di for divorcing your son and for bringing scandal down on the royal family? And let's be honest, there's worse scandal than getting a divorce. It's out there now. What you hid is out there now. And the fact that you are going to be like implicated in it too, it's going to taint your reign a little bit. It's okay that you think your brother was an idiot, right? Yes, he was probably an idiot, but you knew about it. She's not saying anything. She's like totally silent. So here's my question. Can you forgive Diana for being herself and wanting to live a happy life? And she kind of huffed and said, yes. And then I said to Diana, that's about as good as you're going to get. And Diana looked at me and said, yeah, I think it really is. And so it feels better. It feels like you two can at least be in the same room now. Oh, Diana said, not yet. Like, okay. She said, I'm having a hard time forgiving her for her roles in what happened to, like, kill me. I understand that. Queen Elizabeth, what do you have to say to that? England came first. And then my son and his happiness. And then my grandchildren. That was always my focus. If she was not going to be a part of that, she needed to not be a part of that altogether. She needed to not pull focus. She needed to not mess up, basically, my situation, the way I was doing things. And bringing another man into that story would have definitely upset everything. And so I can see why she would be offended by my killing her. Definitely see that. But the queen just said, I didn't have a direct hand into it. It was a nice bonus. And Di said, you did have a direct hand. Please stop lying. And the queen said, that's why I never did like you. Okay, so now we see it. She calls you out on the lie. You don't like being called out on the lie. And so you blame her rather than owning your lie. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with her calling you out on your lie. Are you willing to take the blame of your lie? Own the lie. So the queen just said, I am imperfect and I am flawed and I have been myopic in my view. And I recognize my need for more love and compassion and understanding. When I helped my brother out of his problems, it was also with a royal mind in mind. It was not out of any compassion for him. It was to hide scandal and to cover up. And so I was hiding scandal and covering up with Diana as well. Not my finest moment. Di, is that good enough for you? Is that good? I don't mean that rudely. I don't mean that rudely at all. Like, I'm really sincerely asking if that's what you need. And she said, yes, that is more than I thought I would get. And Queen Elizabeth, is there anything else you need? You're the one who showed up in this space. Is there anything else you need in this time? And she said, please tell my son, I guess that would be King Charles, not to lose focus and not to lose sight of the most important things, and that is Mother England and her needs more than his own. I've asked them if they both have anything else to say. They say no. And so I'm going to end this here. Let me know what you think. I have no idea. I don't know what that looks like. Because I'm so used to like writing it out, like channeling it in front of you. I don't even know what that looks like. So there we go. Thanks for being here.